I would like to introduce you to two friends. Introducing a friend to a friend is such a joy, particularly if the friendship takes. The first friend I want to talk about is somebody who others have actually told me about. I feel that I know him a little, and I know that one day I will know him very well. Yet, still to meet him. His name is Lazarus. There's another one who calls me friend, one of his friends, who I do know a little, and one day will know much better. And his name is Jesus. Let us start by Lazarus, looking at Lazarus. Now, Lazarus is a character who we find spoken of in the Gospel of John in the Bible. You will find him particularly in chapter 11. It's a long chapter, but let's pick out some of the important things that were going on in his life, the life of his family with his sisters, and the life of a very small community. Now, he had a friend who is my friend, and his name is Jesus. Lazarus, and we're not told why, dies. Now, death is the only certainty that we all face in our humanity. We don't know when, we may not understand why, but we know it awaits. Lazarus seems to have died ahead of time as a result of an illness. And Jesus is asked to go and be with the family. And in fact, it's going to be 4 days before he chooses to arrive. And there's a very important thing that is said, and then we'll unpack the story. Jesus says in verse 25, and again, please do look that up if you have time. Jesus said in response to Martha, I am the resurrection, I am the life. Resurrection, life. Now, what is Jesus talking about? Here's his friend in a tomb, and he is dead. He's been dead 4 days. And on this occasion, Jesus is going to have the stone rolled away from the family vault. By the way, you can visit that vault today. And as you go into the vault, there are, as it were, shelves where different members of the family would have been laid. And Lazarus in his death had taken his place in death and was laid in the family tomb. Well, the family complained, saying to Jesus, if we do what you're telling us to do, there's going to be an awful stink. There's going to be a mess. Nevertheless, they, for some reason, choose to do as Jesus says. The stone is rolled away, and Jesus speaks, and he simply says, Lazarus, come forth. And Lazarus, in all his grave clothes, comes out of the tomb. Now let's picture it like this. Lazarus had been laying on a shelf, dead. The whole community knew he was dead, and yet the one who says, I am the resurrection, I am the life, says, Lazarus, you do this. What is Jesus doing? He is giving to the dead his life. A new life. A life that has his character, not simply the life that we are used to in our everyday humanity. It's a new life. It's an exchange life. It's the life of God pulsating now through Lazarus's veins. And so, Jesus, in his word, had done what he said he would do. Lazarus is raised from the dead. However, when he comes out of the tomb with this new life, he is still in his grave clothes. Now, grave clothes are appropriate for the dead, not for the living. And Jesus doesn't lift a finger to take those grave clothes off. He looks at the community and says, you put those grave clothes on, that was appropriate, you take them off. And so my suspicion is that Lazarus would have been lying there and they unwrapped him, or they stood him up and they unwrapped him that way. If they stood him up, they would have had to hold him up. So what now happens is this, that Lazarus is given a helping hand and he is raised. He is raised because the new life is there, but he is raised too through the believing community who now see that he's raised from the dead, and they participate in the new life that they see before him. So the one who says, I am the resurrection, I am the life, has brought about a rising and a raising. Now, lest we get ahead of ourselves, this new life for Lazarus had begun. That's what Christians profess. I do not believe that Jesus, the one who I know a little, who calls me one of his friends, is going to give me new life in the future. I believe I have new life now because of his action. Lazarus, as is in my case, died again. In fact, having received new life, he became a very dangerous person. And the traditions of history tell us that even though he had this gift and many people loved to come and talk to him, what is new life like? In fact, he had to escape. He had to run for his life because many didn't want to hear his testimony. But what if it was true? What if he really was back from the dead? Why wouldn't we want to hear his testimony? Could it be that, like Lazarus, if new life in Christ is true, then we will have to be rid of our old. And change is very difficult. Lazarus in history had to escape, and history suggests Cyprus. He would die again. And faith says this, that life that was new for him then continued, and we will see that one day he will have a new body to contain most fully the new life. Let us look forward.